early 50s. One of our heroes back then was a soldier named Tommy Bookman. He was laid to rest here in 2016 at the Houston National Cemetery. He was 84 years old. His tombstone says he proudly served his country. But despite being dead since 2016, Harris County voter records show Tommy Bookman is still listed as an active registered voter. And get this, public records show that somehow Tommy Bookman applied for a mail-in ballot in the Democratic primary in 2020, 4 years after he died. And he's not the only dead voter still on the Harris County voter rolls. Kathleen Huey also requested a mail-in ballot 3 years ago, despite having died 29 years before this application was signed and mailed. In both cases, private investigators confirmed with family members these voters had passed away years before the requests for mail-in ballots were submitted in their name.
There's no voter fraud here. Don't call my house about that mess.
Yet there are sworn affidavits that the signatures on those applications wasn't even the right handwriting. No doubt felonies were committed.
Applying for a ballot by mail in the name of a dead person is a felony. It's a Texas state jail felony.
No doubt that some of those folks are very dead.
Oh, they're dead. Yeah, I mean, they died, years ago.
Those dead voters were found by Colleen Vera, a retired school teacher who now investigates possible voter fraud.
I don't understand why people just can't be honest. It would be so simple.
Colleen is the widow of Alan Vera, who oversaw ballot security for the Republican Party for years. He died weeks before 2022 election challenges first went to court.
The system's broken, and someone needs to fix it.
What we showed you is evidence of possible illegal vote harvesting. And state investigators were told then about this woman, Gloria Palmer, who worked for the Sheila Jackson Lee campaign in 2020 as an assistant. Turns out she was a convicted forger. On YouTube, there's even audio of Palmer showing how this works.
We do block walking, we get out there, it's on the component, get out there, get those applications done. If I hit 1,000 applications, go back. When it's time for the ballot to come, go back to them before the component get in there and get them to get the absentee vote for that person who I'm working for.
Remember the first rule of politics. The ballots don't make the results. The counters make the results. The counters keep counting.
Vera says it was Palmer who mailed in the suspect applications for those dead people.
In the Democratic primary, in that envelope is where we found 4 deceased people and one lady that said that she left Harris County 23 years ago.
The documents were given to the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the DA Kim Ah. No one was ever charged with a crime. Obviously, if you're dead, you can't apply for a ballot. But folks who have moved away out of the county, they're not supposed to vote in our local elections either. None of this should be happening. According to Texas election law, Harris County officials are supposed to get a copy of the National Change of Address database at least once a month. They're supposed to then compare it to the voter rolls to see who's moved away. But we've discovered Harris County has been breaking the law for years. We learned this shocker because of one of those election challenges, the one filed by former probate judge candidate Rory Olson. His lawyer recently took the deposition of Sue Hastings.
Well, we actually started with Clifford Tatum, and Clifford Tatum didn't know anything about voter registrations, but he did identify someone named Sue Hastings.
Sue Hastings was your director of voter registration.
So you would think that Sue Hastings would know everything about voter registration in Harris County. And I found out that she knew very little about voter registration, about what was going on in her own office.
And she surprisingly said the county was allowing a third-party contractor to clean the voter rolls. Woodfill, is there anyone from your office that goes back and makes sure that the third-party vendor does that job properly, doesn't make mistakes? Hastings, no. That third-party vendor, Hastings said, was a company called Level 1. Hastings said this guy would know the whole story, Harry Vasquez, who worked at Level 1.
When I took Mr. Vasquez's deposition, his testimony was, I don't think we ever did it, ever.
Since April of 2020, Level 1 was paid $171,000 $100,000 by Harris County. But the election administrator's office didn't even know for sure what they were doing or made sure that voter rolls were accurate.
That means we have a voter roll, a voter roster where arguably thousands of individuals who no longer live in Harris County but live someplace else in the state or live outside the state or even have moved within Harris County are casting illegal votes.
It's a bombshell discovery that could impact ongoing election challenges. Most are still underway 11 months after the 2022 election.
Well, disappointment, not shock, because quite frankly, the Elections Administration Office had fallen into such a state of malevolence and disrepair and nothing surprises me anymore.
When Paul Betancourt was tax assessor in the late 90s, his office found tens of thousands of illegal voters by simply looking. As state senator, he led the effort this year in Austin to get rid of Clifford Tatum as the county election administrator and return Harris County elections to elected officials.
What this means is that no one had been doing voter roll registration in years.
Betancourt calls what we've exposed part of an election horror show. We do know that the San Antonio judge, David Peoples, who's hearing the election challenges, doesn't like it. I'll just tell you, the judge said, it does seem to me that some serious things were said in that Hastings deposition with Vasquez when you consider those two together.
The hunt is over for a man accused of stabbing and killing his girlfriend and a puppy.
We found another compelling reason to immediately order a scrubbing of our voter rolls. Guys like Marquez Potts, you can see, is a current registered voter. He's also a convicted felon. He pled guilty to stabbing a woman, and now he's charged with murdering his girlfriend while on probation for that other crime. You see this obituary for Cedric Ray Fobbs? He died 12 and a half years ago, and he was a convicted felon at the time of his death. Someone should tell the voter registration folks that he's no longer eligible to vote, but somehow he's still registered. Remember last year we were trying to warn you about soft on crime judges? Their rulings were getting people killed. Still are. Crime Stoppers was keeping track of the felons getting out of jail on PR bonds. And we used that data again this time to check 100 convicted felons to see if any were registered to vote. Of the 100 convicted felons we checked, 23 had active voter registrations. That's more than 20%.
I think it's outrageous, but I think it's consistent with what we're seeing across the board. The only way we stop voter fraud is if we start from the beginning, making sure we have an accurate, correct voter registration roll.
Felons, dead folks who just don't live here anymore. And you wonder why people are losing trust in our elections.
The bottom line is somebody has to do the job of cleaning up the voter roll. If you don't have a voter roll with integrity, you're not going to have election results that everyone believes.